So these are the things that we're attempting to do. You need to keep in mind also that it's very important that as a board and as management that we do not act too swiftly with the hiring of additional staff, because we have students that come and go. We could very well hire staff, and the next thing you know, we lose 7 or 8 students, and we're stuck with a staff person. This is why, as Mr. Carr was saying, the contract says that we really have until the second Monday after Labor Day to really make a hard, fast decision in terms of what our class sizes are going to be. And we're trying to hold to that. Where we've had classes that have been as high as 40, 41, I've made sure that within that class that they've had a substitute teacher as well as a para. You know, we've really attempted to do that. But in those same classes today, they're not that high. Once again, we've either transferred the students out to a different building or to different grade levels. Question?
Yes, I have a question.
Ms. White?
Mr. Clark, you were just giving us some comparative analysis. Did you present us with that data from the previous year? Is it somewhere in this packet? 'Cause
No, it's not in this packet.
Okay,
I was
so-
just kind of roughly telling you what that comparison is.
Okay. I was just wondering where you got that information from, because I didn't see anything, so.
And what I did was I took the September 2004 official for Friday count and compared that with today's September 12th 05 count and did that comparison.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Did you even look at the count at the beginning of the year last year before you got to the official count? You know how these are unofficial.
Like in August?
So last year, we got unofficial counts the same time last year.
Yeah.
Did you compare those
Sure.
two reports to see?
We started from August 29th, the first day of school, to 31st. And each day we look at those numbers and we compare those numbers and we look at, you know, where we're going. And we use that information to determine what we're going to do, whether or not, you know, splits or whatnot.
No, I meant from last year. Like, were we in the same ballpark last year with the unofficial count that we were this year, or you just
No,
looked
we were
at?
a little higher in some places last year. We were higher
That's what
at the
I-
middle school to begin with, and we were higher in the alternative high school.
That's what I wanted.
And there's a couple of other areas where we've been pretty low. Corey was a little low this year, and Hill Creek has been down this year. When we looked at the first day, I just about pulled the rest of my gray hair out, and that wouldn't have been a pretty sight. But the fact is that we were very low the first day, but after the second and third days, things really started to come. People didn't necessarily send their students to school those first 2 days, but the Wednesday after Labor Day, we had a huge number of students come in for the first time. And that will continue, if we look at previous history, right on up till about the third and fourth week of school. There's another new dimension to this as well this year. We are subject to New Orleans folks coming into our schools.
You have to accept.
And there are going to, you absolutely have to accept them, and
Yeah.
they bring no proof, they bring no grades, they bring no nothing.
Right.
And federally,
Exactly.
we are expected,
Some
we
of
are
them
expected
don't
and
have it.
required to bring those kids in, try to figure out really where they
Yes.
best belong,
Exactly.
and to make it work. And I don't know how many we've received from New Orleans yet, because we don't keep records of where everybody comes from on a check sheet to see what state they come from. But there will be some more students there, and I expect it could be another 2 weeks before, 2 or 3 weeks yet, before even the last of them will come in. And we've been told by the state that we must accept these kids without
right.
question, but we will receive funding for them. I don't know how many folks are still left in Battle Creek, but they sent a couple of airplane loads of people to Battle Creek, and I know a lot of folks have found their own way to our community, and we'll have to just kind of see where the ball bounces, and then they may not stay. They may only stay a short time. They may stay with us forever. We don't know.
And Mr. Carr, I'm glad that you mentioned that as well, just the state mandate. But because I work for the Head Start program, it is a federal mandate as
Federal
well.
mandate, right.
And because they are coming without any information, you have to take their word for whatever they tell you, the child's age, whatever their previous grade was, and that's how the information will be recorded. And it's coming directly from the federal government.
And then I think the thing that would happen, if we find a child has been placed too high or too low in grade level, we would make adjustments after we've totally assessed where the pupil belongs. But another challenge, just another big piece of the pie. You'll also recall our community high school was quite large last year. I think we were around 290. This year, I think we're around 230. Belleville has left us. They've started their own program, and there's some effects shown there, but we've picked up this in a relationship now with Wayne Westland, and over time, I think that will help maybe heal some of the problem that exists there. Thank you.
Mr. Ruthier?
While we're down just slightly over last year, you need to remember also that when we do a blended count, and by that I mean we have a February enrollment, so that impacts this September enrollment. It's 25% of February and 75% of this, so that the two are blended together. And we had a favorable count back in February. So even though we're down slightly in September, us being up slightly in February tends to offset what we've lost, just so the Board of Education knows that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got a
Are there any
question,
other
Madam Chair.
questions? Go ahead.
You got a teacher on the first page here. It's got 37 students, fourth grader. Thought you mentioned the contract's at 35. Are we having problems with there, or are they all active students?
They're all active students, but what we're going to do is to hire a teacher to take care of this fourth, fifth grade class here.
Okay.
So that's in the process of taking place. I would say the interviews are probably going to be set up within the next couple of days.
So we're going to hire a teacher to
Yes.
kind of take that overflow out of that school.
Yes, we have a problem with the fourth and fifth grade. The person who has the split will go to, let's say, to the fourth grade as the second fourth grade teacher, and the new person would come to the fifth grade, and we'd
Okay.
then notice we'd have, 55 students or so, and they'd be split between two grades rather than between
Right.
one teacher in each grade and a split. So we'll do a lot of kids a favor of being able to get them totally with their own grade level.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
The next item is, you have before you two resolutions. One is relative to student 20006256. We've had a committee hearing relative to the enrollment of this child who's been out of school because of a disciplinary situation a year or more ago. And we had a committee of an administrator, two board members, teacher, and a parent hear this situation and make a recommendation that we are asking you to make the motion on. And this particular student would be allowed to, let's see, which one does this one do?
We're community high,
Oh, okay. Yeah, they'd be conditionally reinstated in community high school, conditionally, right in, and then his future would depend on what happens at community high. So we need a motion and a resolution passed there. Thanks, Tim.
Can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we move that student number 20006256 be conditionally reinstated for enrollment in community high school commencing the 05-06 school year.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Minkovich, supported by Ms. White. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, now we have a resolution for 20000865. He readmitted to the second semester at Romulus High School. That's after him being successful for a semester in the community high school.
Can I get a motion, please?
I would like to make a motion that student 20000865 be conditionally readmitted based on the recommendations of the committee.
I'll support it.
Moved by Mrs. White, supported by Mrs. Lanaski. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Madam President,
Yes.
just for a second, I just like everybody to understand that there are conditions with this student, and he's got to maintain a 2.0 grade point average, and he can't have any discipline referrals. If he does, that affects what happens to him for the second semester.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Minkovich. Everyone agrees? Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is communications and expressions from the public. I have here in front of me 4 requests. The first one, Janet Turner Harmon.
He's left.
She's left, okay.
Go on to the next one.
The next one I have is Suzanne Spearman Carter. If you want to just step right up front here. And the microphone's right over there on the table. No, I don't think so. Go ahead and tap it.
Yeah.
Now it's
Just kind of
should be.
tap it.
There you go. Okay.
One of the other reasons why I'm here tonight is to express my concerns for the overcrowding of the kindergarten class at Corey. My child attends Corey Elementary, and my youngest, and she's in the kindergarten class. There are 33 students. I feel that it is too many students for too less of staff. I do not feel that a teacher and an assistant is enough. In particular, I go up to the school every day. It was, first of all, to just peek in, couple minutes, stand by the door, peek in to see how my daughter was doing, how she's adjusting, which she is adjusting well. And until the day she come home off the bus and her skirt is hanging off of her behind, you can see her underwear, all her rear end, and one good pull of the string that should have been tied to keep her skirt on would have ended up her clothes falling off of her. And also her nose was so stuffed up from, she suffers terribly from seasonal allergies. And a child her age can only take so much medication at a particular time, and it's only, unfortunately, at night. I can only blow her nose so much before she goes to school. This morning she even woke up with nosebleeds, and her nose was just clotted. I'm not blaming the teachers. I'm blaming the fact that it's not enough help. And until I seen that, I go every day. I take out lunch and I go up to her school every day. And fortunately, for a working parent, I'm very happy that I can go every day. I can, and I'm hoping that I'm speaking for the parents who cannot come every day to see what's going on. Like again, I'm not blaming the teachers, but they need more help. I have to go up there to the school to see, not to teach my child, but to see that her basic needs are being helped and those needs are not being addressed. And it's just a concern of mine. And every day I go up there, I'm blowing her nose and I'm fixing her clothes, I'm wiping her face, making sure that she is presentable. Her basic needs are being met. The teachers don't have time to do that. They're young. They still can't even take care of themselves. I'm not asking the teachers to raise my child, but just to make sure that she's presentable. My daughter, I asked my daughter also, did you get any help? She says, well, my friends in the classroom tried to help me with my clothes. I asked the teacher, and she never did do it. She doesn't have time. She has so many other issues going on in the classroom. And I sit, as I sit and watch the class, a third of the class are children who aren't listening, children who need to be watched by I feel like a third person in the classroom because they're not paying attention. And the teacher has continuously stopped and addressed and redirect these children while my child is trying to learn. She has 45 minutes, the children have 45 minutes out of the class time for rest time. During that time, the teacher reads them a book. They are to sit at their desk, hold their heads down and rest. Half of the classroom are asleep. And I know out of those half, it is not my child because my child hasn't taken a nap in a long time. But it would break my heart to know that my child is sleeping or napping on a hard, cold desk with just maybe if she brought a jacket to school as a pillow. I would not like to see that. I would not appreciate that at all in the least. They need more help in there. If I could quit my job, if I could go part-time, and I am seeking that, to go part-time, if I have to leave my job to do something else, to be with my child, not to just for my child, but also to help with the other children in that classroom, I would, because my heart goes out to them. So that's all I would like to say. And I hope that something can and will be reconsideration of, hiring more teachers, part-time something for those classes. And not just at Corey, but at all of the other elementaries also in Romulus.
Thank you, Ms. Spearman. We're definitely, it's an ongoing watch. I know Ed's worked very hard. I've been in contact with him on a daily basis regarding the number of students in classes, and so far he's doing a fine job keeping his eye on that. I can call him any time of the day to get a status, and he's on top of that. So we will continue to investigate that. Thank you. The next person I have on here is Linda McNeil.
Did they find that Mrs. Turner, or did she go home? I don't know. Maybe she must have gone home.
Okay, I guess the one, Linda McNeil, I live on Whitehorn Street. I guess the one thing that we're repeatedly hearing tonight is that the schools are overcrowded. And I, and I understand that you are trying to deal with it and jumble staff and whatever. But back to the same issue that's not going to go away. We're compiling our list of of what we believe to be the non-resident students in the district. What's going to be done with the list of names once they're turned over to you? And how are we going to know what's been done, whether they've been investigated or whether the list was just thrown in the garbage?
You will be reported back to by the administration. Your list will go to them. They will hold the investigation, find out if the students provided the correct information. We'll have that on file. If not, we'll go after them and ask them for pieces of information that if we don't have, and then you will receive information back regarding whether or not the investigation's taken place.
Excuse me.
Joel, do you have any?
I guess I've got a question, because maybe something has changed, but that was not my understanding of how the process was supposed to work. I didn't understand that you were supposed to compile a list and turn the list into someone. I thought that there was a number available for you to call and report. Unless something has changed, then I'm not aware of it, and the rest of the board.
We're working on our own list that people are calling us with
Yeah.
names.
We've asked people to call the school board at the school board office, and there were some numbers there to report things specifically of situations they know of. We're willing to, we had a couple of names appear today, and it's being investigated already, and we're working on that. Putting together a list is all well and good, but as we hear of a situation, we can deal with it more directly.
Okay.
Now, the question of how we're reporting back, whatever is going on, some of this stuff is coming to us, and it's coming to us anonymously, so there's nobody to report back to. But we're going to deal with these situations that are questionable. Those folks have a right to their rights for education if they belong in our school district, if they've done the appropriate things to do that, and for us to report back other people's information relative to their status to other individuals because of suspicion is questionable. So what kind of reporting might occur will depend
We're not
tremendously.
asking for names. We just want to know.
But you're giving us name and you're asking what's going on, and we're going to deal with each situation.
You just want to
individually.
make sure it's not being tossed and it's being
We're not gonna toss them
investigated,
away.
right?
Well, I don't think.
We're not going to
that
toss them away. We're going to deal with them.
Because we
would have
had,
been set up.
I had two very questionable ones come to my attention this week, and the one was so blatant that it wasn't even funny. Apparently, the lady had gone to the school to register her kid, got the paperwork that she needed, and her address did not reflect the city of Romulus. So she was told to go to the Secretary of State and change her driver's license to indicate an address in Romulus, and she did that. And she does not live in this city. Her and the other person that
Has this person been turned into us yet?
they will be.
that's
They
Or
haven't
doc-
been turned. My point is, we can't do anything until it's been turned in. So when you hear of a situation like that, call one of our numbers,
Right.
and we will deal with it. We're going to do that.
I know, but you got to understand where we're coming from. She is supposedly telling us that she's only doing what she's told to do by the district. So
We're
if
not
you're-
telling people to come and cheat. We're telling people what kinds of proofs they need to have to show us. Some people don't have proofs. They've come here a short time ago, they don't know what they need to have, and they get it. In many cases, it's very, very legitimate. There are other people that might be playing a game, and if they're playing the game, they're going to get caught.
That's leading to my point. She went to the Secretary of State the day before, changed their driver's license both to indicate the same address, and the change of address on the driver's license was the day before at the same address, and now when she comes to you, she's not going to have your 3 pieces of utility bills with that address on it when she just changed her driver's license the day before. You follow me? There's cheating going on. Is this board at least willing to accept the fact that there is cheating going on?
I think, Ms. McNeil, nobody's in a debate with you about whether there's cheating going on or not. I think we just don't want to be held liable if we violate someone. We have repercussions for that. So if indeed that is a problem and people are reporting that information and you find out that somebody is in violation of that, please report them. That's all we're asking you to do. But to set ourselves up to go and violate somebody, and indeed we might be wrong, then that'll cause more money for us in the long run when they have their attorneys coming to our board meetings, suing us. So if the information is correct and you have it, call it in and we'll act on it. We're not in denial about that. But again, somebody's giving you a whole scenario of what's going on, and that there's a similar situation.
This lady came, she gave me the scenario herself. She
Right,
came
and-
to me to have the paperwork notarized.
Right, and I'm not disagreeing with that, but we did have a resident who has had a house in Romulus for 4 years who chose not to change her address. But then she's decided she wants her kids here, so she had to go down and change her address. Has been renting a home for 4 years in Romulus, but lived at her mother's address. So I'm saying there are different situations. But if indeed the lady is in violation of what our procedure is and what we put in place, just phone it in.
Well, you have to understand, we're leery to turn these names over without knowing how it's going to be how it's going to be followed up with.
Each
You
case will be
understand?
handled individually because the circumstances of each case is different from another case. There's a gentleman who just moved in with 7 children.
Right.
If
I
somebody
understand
calls
that.
his name
And
in-
nobody
But the
is
point is,
questioning him.
that's what happens.
Nobody's questioning the people from New Orleans coming here.
Well, we don't know that, because some people might be.
Anyway, on to my next question. If we were to change to a school of choice, obviously we're overcrowded. You heard it over
That's
repeatedly
not
tonight.
necessarily true in terms of we've had as many as 6,600 kids in the Romulus schools.
If
And when
we
you look
were-
at the overall, I think that we could say that that's not necessarily a true statement, but okay.
If we were to go to a school of choice, would there be a limit as to the number of students that we would take in? I mean, would there be a point where we just wouldn't take
There
anymore?
would absolutely be a limit, but my position since day one of schools of choice has not for Romulus to become a school of choice. There's a tremendous problem with any district becoming a school of choice, and it's finally now starting to show up in Ferndale and Royal Oak particularly. They lost a lot of students as the population of their community got older. Tremendous numbers of kids, and they advertise, you've heard them the last 2 or 3 years, advertising on the radio to get students in. Well, what happens is
Taylor?
Taylor maybe the same way, but in any event, a lot of people come in from outside the community. They have no vested interest in that town. They have no contribution to paying for the buildings. We've got great facilities here, absolutely great. I don't know if there's anybody in Michigan overall that has better facilities that we have in this community. And for people to come in from Livonia or New Boston or Belleville or wherever it is, to come in great numbers and use our facilities and do what we're doing for kids is not what I would ever stand for, and I would never recommend that. And our board has, to a person, for the number of years I've been involved in this, which is 10, 11 years that's been in place, has not even seriously considered becoming a school of choice. It's a disenfranchisement for the people who live in this community, and it creates a situation where, when it comes time to need another new building or to have a bond issue to do some renovations or additions if the population continues to grow, why would people who live in this community pay additional taxes because we brought 500 kids in from other communities? It's a bad business practice, and it's a bad social practice for a community to do that. And I stand very strongly on that issue, and these folks I think to a person would echo that. So we're not going to do it. We have schools of choice in two situations. Our alternative school, because to get the size we need, our population isn't large enough to get 200 to 300 kids in that building. You got to go elsewhere to get those. And then kids who are in the 12th grade. A 12th grader can finish school here. And when we opened up that, it does allow kids to come in here for just the 12th grade. Well, virtually nobody does that because they want to finish in the school that they've been going to all these years. So that's the only examples we have to go against that.
Shirley, but you've touched on exactly where I'm going. You've got to understand that this city is not done growing. We've only
right.
begun. How many years have we waited for all these new subdivisions to come in here, to have all these new rooftops? Our schools are overcrowded now, and I'm telling you that the taxpayers of this city cannot afford any more taxes to build more schools. So at what point, we're going to need them anyway, and where are we going to come up with the money to pay for it?
That becomes really a question that we're not near that yet. And if you look at our enrollments, you'll see in our elementary schools, they vary.
Well, we didn't get that. I was wondering if that
They
was
vary
public
from-
information
They
in that
vary
form.
from, yes, it is, but it isn't completed yet, it isn't official, but we vary from 278 to 419 students. Our smallest school has 278, 286, 296, 355, 419, and 439. Now, these schools have been built theoretically to deal with 500 students, and that's an overstatement, I think. But we still have room in our schools for several hundred elementary kids. The other thing that happens with the new tax situation we've had since Proposal 1 is that your taxes are set at a particular level in the valuation of your house when you buy it.
Proposal A,
Exactly. And you get an increase of like 3% per year.
I work in the
Except-
assessor's office, I know how that works.
Okay, so
That doesn't affect the new homeowners that
no,
are
the
buying
new
brand new
homeowners are
homes here.
paying the higher tax. But the overall effect is, if you were to buy a house just like the house you live in now, in another part of Romulus or in another community, your taxes are going to be probably twice of what they are right now. So Proposal A has had a situation that has created
I understand
a
that.
stop on mobility. Well, I'd like to explain it for others as well. That the mobility in our society, theoretically, of homeowners is way, way down. And what's happened is many folks who bought starter homes here have stayed here. Merriman School used to be a huge school, 550 kids. Merriman School right now has 286. And we're getting more building in that area. But the folks have stayed, and the younger folks haven't had the opportunity to buy homes there, and so on and so. So we're facing a different sociological phenomena than what we've had before. So I don't think we need to be rushing into building new schools yet at this point. We've still got a few years before we have to consider that. And by then, with the racetracks and some of these other things, the SEV of the community goes up, and some of the other businesses and so forth will be paying huge chunks of that. It's a short lesson.
We hope the racetrack comes here.
Well,
Okay, now just
some people
briefly, I
don't.
know, I personally haven't gone over my 3 minutes, but we've gone over the 3 minutes.
Yeah. I have to.
Yeah, we won't hold you accountable. Now, on that 18 mills that I brought up last time for the non-homestead, did anybody look into actually what kind of money that would, remember we talked about it, we're not collecting the full
He
18
gave you an
mills.
answer, I think, last time.
You said because of the Headley,
Override,
It
right.
was like 3/10 of a mil that were
That's
pulled
right.
back.
yeah, did anybody look into, if we took a vote on that and that was approved, what kind of money that would bring in the school district?
A couple, 300,000
That's right.
out of
You're exactly
37 or
right.
38 million, sure.
$291,752.
Was that a trick question?
It's so nice that you're to support that we know what we're doing up here. Thank you.
But my next question is I don't think any of the residents in the city are going to have a problem voting with the companies and the non-homestead residents to be paying more tax, and that $291,000 is just for the schools. Do we have to get a petition going in order to have that put on the next ballot, or?
We can decide that at this table to do that. I mean, you don't have to petition to do that. We can decide that. There are a couple of other things going on in the legislature, though, that are very significant. One is relative to the sinking fund. A bill is introduced to change the definition of what a sinking fund is for. A sinking fund is normally for remodeling facilities. We're trying to change the definition, and I'm involved in it, to change the definition so we can buy buses, so we can do some of the other kinds of repairs that are not permitted under the law at this point. If we get that frees several $100,000 or $1 million or $2 million, depending on how many mills we did, to do the things we need to do to give us more money to have smaller class sizes and do those things. So we got to get that legislation changed, and then, I'm ready to go to do that.
Yeah, I don't understand why, I sit here tonight and I listen to you talk about being short money. And when I figured it out, with that 291,000, that's the equivalent of 22 teachers. So,
What?
Hmm?
No,
I don't think
It's
so.
equivalent of about
3.
3 or 4 teachers.
Right, because you
so
talk
our,
about
our
salaries
teachers
and
are
not
making over
fringes.
55,000 a year.
That's right.
With their benefits and everything that they
benefits.
give. Yes, they
I
are.
didn't take benefits into
And the
account.
and the people on the top of the schedule make more than that.
But I mean, it's $300,000 you don't have, so why wouldn't you be acting on that as soon as you can?
That's a possibility.
I mean, with
Absolutely.
gas prices and everything else.
That's a possibility, absolutely.
Okay.
And you'll work very hard to lead the campaign, right?
Say what?
And you'll work very hard to lead the campaign to help us pass it.
Absolutely, because I said today that we need to, when we get ready to put this on the ballot, we need to make sure that the homestead residents understand that this is not going to be an increase to them, because otherwise, if they don't understand that, they're going to vote no on it,
That's right.
okay?
So you would have to hold
that-
several classes in several communities to educate them on that. It won't just be up here. It's going to take a lot.
And the Headley override is for 1 year. You understand that.
It'll be different next year, and it may be higher next year.
Right. With that, I'm pretty much done. There was just some comments that were made by one of the board members last week under their breath, and her microphone wasn't off. I think you guys need to be a little bit more careful about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNeil. Daryl and Tracy Bland.
As we had already stated, we're doing the community. And on the paper, I did write my same concern about the class sizes. And in the school, when you have that many children, if the teacher is constantly correcting behavior, the students that are there behaving and wanting to learn are suffering. So I am going to keep an eye on that. I am very concerned about that. And Daryl and I do not have a problem about snatching our children out. We are very, very concerned about education. I will drive as many miles as I have to get my children where they need to be. That leads into my next concern, which is that the middle school children and the high school children ride the bus together. There is a problem.
I've heard.
There's a problem. And I will tell everybody on this board, I won't go for it. I'm telling you, if a child is not safe on that bus, it should not be tolerated, period. When we came to orientation, we signed papers, the parents and the students, saying what we were going to do and what was not going to be tolerated. And I believe that people should back up their word. And if you tolerate it with one student, you're going to tolerate them with all of them. Children follow each other. And if you got one child cutting up and causing problems, and the children notice that the bus driver does not address it, you're going to continue to have a problem. And my thing is, if they're cutting up on that bus and it is not addressed, not only are those children, all of those children on that bus in danger, other motorists are in danger as well. And I hope that you guys take that really, really serious, because I know firsthand that that is a problem, not with the elementary level, but with that level with the older children. And if a bus driver cannot handle those children, they need to be dismissed. I'm really hard about that, because there are so many accidents and it happens very quickly. And so I know that the budget and everything, you have to have strong drivers. And one thing about children, when I worked in the school system, if you are consistent with children, if you are firm with children, they will respect you. As adults, we are not there to be their buddy and to get them to like us. We are there to make sure that they are safe and that they are protected. And that's my comment. I am very concerned, and I will be watching.
If you have specific issues relative to buses, please call the transportation director or call Mr. Ruthier, and we'll address them. We have cameras that shoot video discs or
Well, you know
tapes all the
what?
time, and those are very helpful. They don't solve the problems, but they're very helpful. And then I'd also like to say that we go about 900,000 miles a year, and our safety record so far is admirable. We've done a very, very good job. We do a lot of safety training. Not to say we don't have problems, because there are kids who are going to misbehave, but they need to be removed from the bus. Their parents need to understand. Their parents that are cutting up are the ones that need to be working with us, or else they're going to be driving their children to school. And under the law, until they're 16, they've got to be coming to school. So it's going to put a big hurt on the parent. And we have procedures to do that, and we need to make sure that we know where the problems are and we live with them.
I did call that was the first thing that I did, was call the transportation office. I believe in the chain of command, going through the procedure and talking who I need to talk to. I will not even tell you what I was told.
Well, you need to talk to Mr. Ruthier.
Especially when I told what bus number it was. Oh, we've had that problem before.
That's not our transportation supervisor speaking, probably, but
standing up on the bus, throwing things on the bus, throwing things out of the window. You know, and this has been a known problem, and this bus driver has been, there's been reports about this particular person before. And so I said, I'm just going to watch, I'm going to wait, and I'm going to give it a little bit of time. And so I was, wanted to come out this evening because
talk to this man. That's what it's about.
Yes, please.
Do that.
Please.
This
Okay.
one right here.
Because I really didn't call to say names out loud and all of that. It's not
We
at
appreciate
that
that.
point at this time.
You can speak.
But we don't want what you don't want. We want Shangri-La on the bus. And we're working for that, but
Believe me, my husband say, that's all right. They can't handle it. I'll sit on that bus. I'll ride with my child through that bus route and back, and they will not cut up no more. Because sometimes you just need somebody to let them know we're not going to tolerate it.
Right.
That's right.
bingo. Most of our
Thank
drivers
you.
are excellent,
That's
but
right.
we appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Frere,
That's it.
Madam Chair, can I make a
four.
comment?
Yes, Ms. White.
I know a couple of times tonight, things have been made reference to behavior problems with children. And I just wanted to mention, we do have intervention rooms in all of our schools. So if children are causing disciplinary problems, they can be referred out to the intervention specialist. And that's another mechanism that has been put in place in the schools to assist the teachers. So there is something that's being done. So I don't know what the particular situations are, but we do have intervention rooms where children that are causing problems should be referred out so it won't interrupt the teacher's teaching time.
Thank you, Ms. White. Next item on the agenda, items of interest from the superintendent.
I think they're self-explanatory. Other than, I guess I'd emphasize again, on October 3rd, at the High School Media Center at 6:30, we're going to have a tax seminar. I've got an outside expert coming in to speak, and I've invited and had an acceptance from Senator Basham to be here, and I haven't heard back from Hunyang Hopgood yet, but I'm sure he would be here as well. So we're going to help people understand what the tax situation is about, and move ahead from there.
Thank you, Joel. The next item on the agenda would be questions or concerns of the board members. Go ahead, Ms. White.
Madam Chair, yes, I do have a question and concern, and it is relative, Mr. Ruthier, to transportation. I have been getting calls to parents just questioning the bus overcrowding system between the middle school and the high school. So I don't know, what the current situation is, but I did ask parents to call the transportation department to express their concerns.
Okay.
But just to let you know that I have been getting calls in relationship to that. And I don't know how they work it out with high school and
Well,
middle school.
we do a rebid about the
Yes.
fourth week of school, so when adjustments will be made, and the drivers will rebid some of the runs to
Okay.
We
have
have,
everything happen in a proper fashion to.
it takes a few days to settle down, not that that's an excuse, but
Okay.
for people to get acclimated. And remember also now, we're bringing in alternative ed students too, so that's kind of, we have
Right.
that piece to deal with as well. But we'll stay on top of it, and we'll make sure that we work out the problem.
Might have to do them like they do them at the elementary and give them seat assignments.
Not a bad idea.
I mean, you hate to go there because the older they get, the more responsible they should be, but,
You
There were
it's
some bus
always a
drivers that
thought.
when I was a senior, had seat assignments when I rode the buses.
You did, huh?
Are there any other
Tells you
questions
how he behaved.
from board members?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Minkevich?
I got so many things. I guess one of them is, I think we as a board need to have a study session or an executive session concerning several items that will be coming up in the near future. One of which is we need to start looking at how we want to handle the search for a new superintendent. And there's some concerns I have about some other situations, but I think we need to get started.
Well, I was
We
actually
just talked
thinking
about that tonight.
January.
Okay.
Do you oppose to January?
Well,
Actually, I
hang
think
on a
we
minute. I might be, because we would like to have someone in place while Joel is still here.
Right, and that's our intent, but
Which
we
would
don't need them
mean-
here all year.
We can talk about this, I mean,
Yeah, because I'm, you
Right, we
know,
don't need to pay 2 superintendents all year, though, so
well,
that's
no,
what I was
no,
thinking.
but
Start
I'm
the
thinking of
process.
starting
Need
the
to start
process
looking.
earlier. I thought you
Absolutely.
meant start the process in January. I might want to
late.
start a little earlier, because we need to do a thorough search.
Right,
And we need to know how we want to handle that search and what types of things, as a board, we should be looking for, and, you know, all of that. That's why I was saying that maybe we should have a meeting and start looking at that.
Right.
But as far as,
not a problem, we'll get a study session set up.
okay,
Was that the only item?
probably not. The other things that I thought of, I was at a football game Friday night. It happened to be Romulus. And I'm very upset with what I'm seeing as far as what goes on the field. Romulus had several 15-yard penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct. And what I'm seeing is a lack of control and discipline from those that should be in charge of that program. I have a concern with that. The other thing that I've had some concern with is I'd like to have some information on this new technology class. The instructor is part-time at the high school, part-time at the middle school. I'm understanding that at the high school, we had hardly any enrollment in the tech class.
I called Ed on that last week. We discussed that briefly. He's looking into that.
Just give you a quick update. That is a new class that's new this year. And as a matter of fact, the class is so new that it was not placed on the registration. Students now have been informed of the new class. We're up to 9 students in the class, and the goal is to have 18, I would say, within the next week. Dan Hurst is aware of this, obviously, he's on top of it, and the recruiting of those students are taking place now.
Why did we decide to add it then? I mean, if we didn't have it on the master schedule to start with, why did we add it late? Because obviously that makes it very difficult to fill the class with students.
I think it was a new direction that Mr. Musham, who's in charge of our vocational program, as well as Mr. Hurst, wanted to pursue. And it was a new class and a new venture that we wanted to make available for the students. And we think that it's going to be a very worthwhile media and technology class for the students.
Part of that was that we had some retirements, and we didn't know the retirements until April, whatever it was, April 1st. And then we recruited staff, and we saw this as an opportunity to update the career prep program to align it more solidly with the middle school.
Where are the funds coming for the equipment and so on? Where are we getting the funds?
Well, we had a substantial amount of equipment before. We're updating the equipment through Mr. Musham's funding and through the general fund.
Added cost through the voc ed funding.
Because
We have a very, very extensive TV theater
Part
there.
of it.
Yeah, but we had a class previous, and that instructor didn't leave us with any real equipment, because there was a lot broken, a lot lost, and I'm going back to the thing I brought up once before, where we have people who are not holding staff and stuff accountable for the things that they lose. And that's what I'm worried about here. We're getting all new equipment, and we're going to turn around and end up, are we going to be in the same boat?
Well, we never anticipate being in the same boat. We all, in relationship to the monitoring of the equipment, obviously, we feel we've hired a quality person to do that. And number two, one of our responsibilities in in education, in curriculum, is to be progressive and to offer our kids the most creative and latest opportunities so that they can be competitive. And it was felt we've invested strongly in this area initially. We haven't updated it. The last teacher we had wasn't as competent as we would have liked. There was a huge interest by kids previous to that. So we feel pretty strongly that this will be a strong venture, and it's really aligned with Mr. Musham's vision of the career prep through the 6 things. So we feel good about it.
Okay, now let me ask one more on this one. What is the certification for the instructor? Because that is a special certification, my understanding, to be in the technology field. Does he have that
He
certification?
does have it. Both Mr. Knox and Mr. Wine have the appropriate certification.
Do we know what that certification is, what the letters are?
Yes.
Is it TX?
I'm not sure if it's TX, it could even be IX, but it is Industrial Arts, Industrial Tech, and Media.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from board members?
I have a question, Madam
Sorry.
Chair. In line with Mr. McKevitch's question, do we inventory and tag items that are being purchased by the district? Do we have some type of system for that?
We have had a system for some time for tagging. Just for the information of the board, because of GASB 34 and how we now report that information to the public and when we do our financial statements, it's changed considerably. So there are some differerences in how we account for things like that, where in the past, we would go down to, if a piece of equipment cost $200, we'd identify it. Now, the threshold is $5,000. So technically, it doesn't appear on our books as a piece of equipment. It's more in the line of office supplies or classroom supplies or something like that. So it's a little bit different.
Okay, let me maybe ask you again. If we were to buy computers, just say we purchased 20 new computers in the district with printers, scanners, whatever, that would not have to be inventory and tagged in if it was under $5,000?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, and we have a process for doing that,
Yes.
is what you're saying?
They're all logged in. We have receiving documents where everything is, substantiated at the point of purchase. And then they're all installed in buildings and made accounted for. And somebody is ultimately responsible for that. Either the media techs or somebody at the school.
When we first started with the computers, we used to deface them. I mean, with magic markers that were indelible, because at that time, computers were very expensive, and, I mean, there were thousands of dollars for each computer, and they were pretty simple compared to today's computers you can buy for $500. So the technology situation has kind of changed because the stuff is so much less in dollars than it used to be. But we still do everything we can to hang on to it. We cherish it, and we need for it to be used by year after year after year.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Siddiq.
I've also got a few calls from a couple parents in reference to this media tech, and why it wasn't on the schedule, and you kind of explained that part, but are we going to make sure, this is only for juniors and seniors, correct, at the high school?
I'm not sure of the grade level.
Okay, but are we going to make sure that this is on the master schedule for the new enrollments? And also, was it on the schedule for the junior high students to sign up for, or was this grab the kids out of the hallway kind of?
I'm not sure, Mr. Kuderick, on that.
Are there any other questions?
Along those lines, did we have to do anything to the middle school as far as the classroom to handle the new program or what's going to go on here? Is there anything at the junior high that we had to do?
Other than equipment, we didn't reconfigure the classroom at all. It's all, the cost so far has been in equipment upgrades.
Okay, because I heard a rumor that there was a teacher for a different subject area that was using the room and refused to give it up, and that we were going to move the equipment and stuff to a different room.
That hasn't been brought to my attention.
I'm not aware of
Well, maybe we should check with Mr. Horn then to find out for sure.
Usually,
school or the middle school?
At the middle school.
usually there's lead time involved when you redesign a classroom, layering in, et cetera. That hasn't taken place. So whatever was there, this equipment had to interface with.
Are there any other questions? Okay. I have here in front of me, and I'll pass them out after the meeting, the calendars from the middle school. It includes all of their events for this year that we're all more than welcome to go to. I also have the schedules for the Bulldog football and the schedules for the Bulldogs girls basketball. So if any of you have had a chance or not had a chance to get over to the middle school this year, I've been over there a couple of times so far. Phyllis seems to be doing a wonderful job. I've walked through there, and I really like how it's organized. All of the 7th graders are on one floor. They're all together, very familiar faces. They see their friends, and all the 8th graders are on the top floor. Seems to be a very quiet atmosphere. I was in there during class changes, and when the students were in session, there was no students walking through the halls, and it's really, things are going good over at the middle school. I haven't gotten any complaints so far regarding anything, so Phyllis is doing a very, very good job along with her assistant. So just to give you an update on that. I don't have
Executive session.
anything else to say other than executive session. Can I get a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we convene to executive session.
Support. Moved by Ms. White, supported by Ms. Roscoe. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Kudick,
Yes.
Ms. Lanasi,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe,
Yes.
Ms. Frayer,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
I'll make the motion that we reconvene. into
Support.
regular
Supported by
session.
Ms. Lanasi.
No,
Or
no.
moved-
Motion by
Motion by
Lanasi.
Lanasi, supported by Mr. Kudick. All in favor?
Nope, nope.
Or roll
Need
call?
Oh, roll call.
Mr. Kudick,
Yes.
Ms. Lanasi,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe.
Yes.
Ms. Frayer.
Yes.
Mr. Minkiewicz, yes. I'll adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I
I'd like to
would-
make a
No, no,
motion to
again.
adjourn.
Hold on, I don't have.
I supported that.
I would,
Whoever makes that
I would like
motion.
to make a motion for adjournment, right?
No, they're different
For,
ones.
for
Yeah.
adjournment.
I support. Motion by Ms. White, supported by Ms. Roscoe. Roll.
No,
we need
roll
a roll
call.
call?
You only got
I only got one.
Meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Aye.